This episode may contain graphic language and descriptions, nicotine use, and may not be suitable for younger audiences. Opinions expressed in this episode are of the minds and experiences of the participants and do not represent those of any other people, organizations, groups, or recovery-based fellowships that may be mentioned. We speak only for ourselves.
God bless you. We love you, and we hope you hear something that helps you. Thanks for listening.
Liken my life to that movie that I watched with the kids a long time ago. Lemony Snick. It's a series of unfortunate events.
Oh, the Jim Carrey one?
Yeah, I'm always like, if somebody followed me around for 24 hours, because you know how they put people that have either time or whatever up on a pedestal. I'm like, please don't do that. Follow me around for 24 hours. Literally, when they do those reality shows, mine would be like a lack of reality show. Like, this can't be happening.
Yeah.
Like, this cannot be happening, but it is. So that's my life.
Yeah. That's how it always ends up being at some point or another.
Exactly. I always say to myself, God definitely will keep me humble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He will make sure that I'm in a humble position.
Yeah.
Because anytime I think something's going to go great, like just open in this place, and
he's like, nah.
Right, and dealing with staff, and we're doing trainings.
Oh, yeah.
And just before my ego gets to be like, look who I am, nothing works. Not the technology, not the... And everybody's looking at me, and I feel like the person with the underpants on in the room.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I hear you.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I totally hear you. I'm just going to be that. Years and years ago, there was an older gentleman that had a saying. He wasn't in AA or anything, but he said to me, do you know what a big shot is? And I said, no, I don't know what you mean by that. He said, I said, because I know there's going to be a catch to this. It's not like I'm going to define big shot.
Right.
And he said, it's a little shot away from home.
Little.
Like, like you're just a regular person. You're just not around your own people at home. Yeah. Where you just do the dishes or you run the vacuum or you take out the trash. So you're not a big shot. You're a little shot away from home. That's like, you know.
I love that.
Yeah. It has never left me.
Yeah.
It never left me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, this is Peeling Onions.
Okay.
Peeling Onions, episode 5. Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jeremy.
Yeah. Just also don't forget, like, this isn't like live or anything. Like, I'm just recording this.
Yeah.
Yeah. People sometimes get confused between that.
Yeah. No, I definitely. I think if it was live, I would probably be tossing my cookies right now. I would be vomiting because I'm not. Everybody says to me, well, you know, you do some circuit speaking or you do, you know, you speak or you do big book, you know, studies. You're not afraid.
Different.
I'm like, no.
Different.
That's prayer.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid every single time.
That's prayer and this is a camera. Much different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally different things. I'm like, no, I don't even need my 5 minutes of fame.
Right.
And people are like, oh, that's my 5 minutes of fame. I don't even want 5 minutes of fame.
No, I don't need it.
The price to pay is just not.
Well, I don't want it when I have the opportunity to get it. But like any other time, I kind of think that everybody should know who I am.
It's like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. They're going to erect a statue of me in this town. And what does the straw man say? He says, don't start posing for it now.
Oh, my mom's going to love that you made that reference.
Oh,
it's her
really?
favorite movie.
Oh, is it?
Last year, I bought her tickets to go see I think it was just a, what is it? They were just showing it in a theater again. Up in Phoenixville.
Oh God, The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Wait, what was?
She's a nut when it comes to that.
Scarecrow. I'm calling him the Straw Man.
That's the same thing.
Scarecrow, right? Exactly. And he was pretty clear with the Tin Man. Like, take it easy.
Yeah, relax, bud.
Don't start.
Yeah, take it easy. So you and I know each other. We go way back.
Way back.
I remember. So I was living in the Emily Street house.
Crown.
You remember that?
Yeah. Crown Sober Living.
It was before that, though. It was before it was Crown. Because you guys didn't do that for like another year or so, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was when Vinny and Rob Camp, rest in peace, had started it.
Yeah.
And you were coming in and doing it with...
what a good guy.
You were doing it with Scott. You remember that?
Yeah.
And we opened it up on Sunday mornings, and like the whole community would come in. like Angelo and all those guys would come in and just hang out at the house while you guys did the big book breakdown. And I remember being, I'm going to gas you up a little bit. All right. So just like calm down. But I remember hearing you read like certain passages like about like the Four Horsemen and using that language that is just so easily relatable to in the beginning of like restless, irritable, and discontent and stuff like that. I don't know if you just happened to draw the card of being the first person that I heard say all those things, or if it was like a divine intervention thing. But I remember hearing you and the way that you talked about the book and the way that you and Scott kind of like bounced off of each other, who I miss a lot, by the way. Like I always miss that guy. I just miss getting to hear his message. And I remember hearing it and I was like, and like the passion and the fire that you had, you know what I mean? It's just like, there is something to all this shit that I thought was like really dumb a week ago when I was sleeping on a sidewalk. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I don't know if you know this, but he had taken me in off the street. Vinny did.
I didn't know that.
And I was actually, and this is why I think the program works so well for me. I actually had went, I guess, kind of AWOL from Independence Lodge in Levittown. Okay. And I had
very familiar with Brian's place.
Yeah. And I very much wasn't taking to whatever those guys were trying to do for me up there, because that's what they were trying to do, but I didn't view it that way then. And I had like a little side, like I guess physical attraction hostage would be like the way to say it. Like we were just very much just using each other in that way. And I had her drive up from Delco, pick me up there, and then take me back to my parents' house one night with my stuff in trash bags. I was in that house because they had told me I couldn't come back from Miramont, and showed up at my parents' door and like tried to give them like the sad puppy dog, like knocking on the back door in the rain kind of thing. Like, hey, like I'm your baby boy. Can you let me in? And they were like, yeah, no. And I had 60 days sober. So like 60 days sober, it was the first time I was homeless for a little bit, sleeping on the street. And like, I didn't pick up or anything, but that was the state that Vinny took me in.
Wow.
Yeah.
I absolutely did not know that.
I didn't know you didn't know until I thought about it. And I was like, I don't know if I ever told her that. Like so I already had like a little bit of time, like a small amount of time in comparison, I guess, when I got there, and was just like kind of plucked right off the street. I don't even know how she found the place, honestly, my mom.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know either. And I at that time I do recall now, Vinny and I go way, way back. Mm-hmm. And I do recall him saying to me, you know, while I was doing the big book study with Scott, you know, I really don't know which direction I'm going, but I just want to help all these guys. And Vinny has a heart of gold. And I said, let me put you in touch with Patrick. He's really good at this kind of thing. In terms of his mind was really good at organizing and blueprints and putting things together.
Yeah,
and,
like a good startup mind kind of thing.
Right. Very good. And a structural, way of thinking. And then that was it. You know, once I put the two of them together, they hit it off famously. And Scott's a good man, and he's helping other people. He's married, and he's
down in Florida now, right?
I think the last I knew, he was living in North Jersey. So if he's in Florida now, I'm not really sure. But he is somebody that I love and admire and respect, and wherever he's at, I totally know that he is bringing people to the steps.
Absolutely, right?
And so, but I didn't know that about you. My earliest memory is literally looking out at all of the people in the recovery house, thinking, man, if just one person grabs a hold of anything that I say, God, anything, and uses that to their benefit or uses that to their good.
Right.
all of this, time or energy or fear that I might have about speaking publicly or trying to break down this information to somebody, it'll be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Just one person. And then it became like the highlight of my week.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't wait to come in and hug you people and say hello
Yeah.
and see you and see people with notebooks
Mm-hmm.
and their big book and highlighters and asking questions, and I was like, man, God, thank
Mm-hmm.
you so much.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I had the same experience because so it was you and Scott, and then Scott did something else. I got to work for his business for a little while. I don't know if you knew that either.
Oh no, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. And I know that he is like a very talented plasterer.
Oh, it's insane. The kind of work he does is
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. I don't know where his. Every time I go north of Center City, if it's not anywhere I used to get something from, I get kind of lost. So I don't know where it was. I think it was in Kensington where his workshop was. But I would go there and meet him and his son in the morning, or his son would come and pick me up from. His son and I got kind of close at that time. Would come pick me up from the recovery house on Emily Street, and we would drive to West Philly, do whatever hotel job we were doing. It only lasted a little bit because then eventually he ran out of work. But
Yeah.
but-
And that's I blame these, and I know, the blame game, blah, 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 me or
Mhm.
whatever, but I do look at things, holistically if I can. And
Right.
all of these houses that are popping up and they're all nondescript and they're begging to look descript. And
Yeah.
but his kind of talent
yeah,
is really for a very particular segment of the population.
it's very niche. Yeah.
Very niche.
Yeah.
And beautiful. And I can tell you, if my pockets were that deep, my whole house would be done by him.
Yeah. He's probably a pretty penny.
No doubt.
But yeah, so you guys did it with him. I forget what he went on to do, and then you and Danny were doing it together.
Mhm.
And then after you two were done with that, Mike and I took it over.
Yes.
So I got to experience the same thing. Now the houses were at a time where they weren't as populated as they were when I came in. The door wasn't so revolving, but also new guys just kind of weren't coming in. I didn't really know why, but it was
Well, what was the year that
Oh, God.
you did it? Because I would say to you, the first year that Scott and I did the Big Book Step study, once we got to page 164, he was moving on to do a Big Book study somewhere else.
okay. That's what it
And
was.
I was
Yeah.
still there, and I was thinking, this is all men.
Mm-hmm.
And although I am not really intimidated by that, I had worked at CFCF, Current Fromwell Correctional Facility, and I've done group for, men and co-ed group and things of that nature. But I knew that there would be some men in the group that would be coming to the table with their own biases and their own stereotypes and their own resistances and barriers to hearing it from a woman. So I wanted a man to come with me. And Dan was moving from California
Right.
back to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I said to him, would you be willing? Because he had a new experience in California.
Yeah.
And he said, absolutely, I would be willing.
Yeah.
And
Danny's the
so,
best.
yeah. And so he agreed to do it with me.
Mhm.
And that's how Dan and I got to be doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at some point I had given you the great honor of trying to help me fix whatever the fuck was going on up here, man.
Great honor.
And
And it was an honor.
thank you. And it's funny, I still get not that this needs to be delved into too deeply, but I still get some faces when I talk about my first sponsor being a woman.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't really feel like I have to justify what it was or whatever, but I had an experience with the way that you spoke and the way that you carried yourself and I mean from A to Z, and I mean we got down to business. I drug my feet quite a few times, but
Most people do.
yeah, but
Most people do.
but we did the damn thing. Definitely helped that you were also a practicing therapist, right?
Yeah.
I still have the few big index cards of front and back of my defect list somewhere in my house.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Everybody gets a kick when I talk about my first sponsor being a licensed therapist.
Yeah. Well, and what's really interesting about the people working with the opposite sex, they say men with the men and women with the women. The truth of the matter is the preamble, although it's been reframed
Mm-hmm.
and rightfully so, right? We need to be more inclusive, but I think that it clearly says that Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women
Mm-hmm.
who share their experience, strength, and hope with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And if your motives are in the right place, meaning both parties, if your motives are in the right place, who am I to say, I'm not God, right?
Right,
We all
right.
play God. Oh, you can't have a woman. Oh, you can't have a man. What if you didn't ask? And what if I didn't say yes?
Right.
Would you have had the courage to ask somebody else? Would you have had the ability to do the work if you weren't with a woman who happened to be a licensed therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would that look like?
Yeah.
Like,
That's the
who's
way
to
I view it
say?
as well. Yeah.
Who's to say?
Like at some point, if like, and I very much had a lot of experience in what the kind of ill motivations that would pop up in that situation felt like, and it wasn't that for sure. So like it was very much just AA work. Like that's all it was.
Mhm.
And I try to not, and like I've done the same thing with women that ask me for help. And they've gone on to like, I mean, one in particular has gone on to just not do AA really anymore, which was her choice. But I mean, she's still doing her thing, sober, getting married, like the whole nine. But I really think if it's just like the motives are in place, it's like what you were talking about earlier when we were having a conversation about being spiritual beings having a human experience. And I very much think that that speaks to that situation specifically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just feel like our whole book is geared toward moving us away from playing God.
Yeah.
And yet there are still vestiges of that in Alcoholics Anonymous when people say those things. You know what I mean? Like men with the men and women with the women. And why, you have to have a male sponsor. And says who?
Yeah.
Says you.
Yeah.
And you're not playing God, or at least you don't recognize that you're trying to. You know what I mean? And I just feel like when anyone, anywhere, reaches out for help, the hand of AA should be there. And for that, I am responsible.
Yeah.
And so if I can do it in my spare time, because I am somebody who follows that wonderful suggestion from our literature that says much of our spare time is spent in the kind of the work we just described, right? Spare time. So I'm not to take from my own family. I'm not to miss homework. If I'm in class, I'm not to say, well, yes, I can't do this project. I can't do this. I don't believe I'm the only member of Alcoholics. Like, I'm not super sober. I don't have a cape. And I don't believe I'm the only member of Alcoholics Anonymous that can help people. So I will say to them, man, although I would love to help you and I would love to say yes, I have to be pragmatic about this and practical about this. And I would be doing you a disservice because I don't have the time based on things that are obligatory, that I really need to be taken care of. So I can't do it right now, but I can point you in the right direction. I have a lot of sponsees who are maybe available, have some more free time. Their spare time looks different than mine. And if you're open, I can connect you. And so, I do manage it that way.
Yeah.
I don't pretend that I'm the only person.
Yeah, you can't like rest in like the whole like you have to say yes thing if like without thinking about whether or not you're gonna kind of tarnish their experience of this possibly for the first time based on, I mean, even if you just want to sponsor them like based on something selfish, like just wanting that, when you can't dedicate the time that's necessary. Like there's just people that are at the time for whatever reason, there's just people that are more equipped to be more of what that person probably needs than me at that moment.
Right, and more available.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? The truth is if I can say yes to Alcoholics Anonymous, I do.
Yeah.
Right? I do. If I can't say yes, like you just said, but I am saying yes, I have to take a look. Like that's a 10-step moment. Where am I being selfish? Where am I being dishonest? where am I afraid? I'm afraid of what they might think about me if I can't say yes. I'm afraid that I'm supposed to say yes, but yet I'm saying no. And like all of that stuff, because I have alcoholism, not alcoholism. You know what I mean? Like I really know that this head is still can, deceive me at any given moment. But I think that one of the beautiful things about Alcoholics Anonymous is that it puts you right in the mainstream of life. If you follow the instructions, you're in the mainstream of life, and you are taking this into your daily work, into your home life, into all of your affairs. And my affairs at different times over the years have been, some of my affairs have been expansive. Sometimes I've had more time, you know what I mean? But I have discernment now.
Yeah.
Thank God, I've been restored to a place of sanity, and my connection with him is really good. And I can use discernment and say, am I saying yes that I can do this because I'm so afraid that this person won't find anybody? Then that's me playing God.
Right.
I'm not the end all and the be all in Alcoholics Anonymous, not by a long shot.
Unfortunately.
Right, clone me.
Yeah.
Right. We were talking about that earlier too. How I was talking about a friend of mine who I love and adore, and he helps people. A lot of people know him, Chris Brennan, and we're still famously tight. And we were joking. We were on a Zoom meeting the other night together, and he was breaking down the big book, and we were talking about a joke. We have an inside joke together.
Of course you do.
Well, right. Yeah. Well, he'll say, I remember we were on a circuit speaking commitment. I think it was Scott Fleming's Liberty Bell Roundup.
Yeah, that was hosted in my hometown.
Okay.
In Essington. Yeah.
So we were on a commitment, and people were treating him like he wrote the big book. So we were like, it's like Chris Brennan. So I leaned over to him and I said, do they know that I'm sober longer than you? Just joking. Well, that's been our running joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's beautiful.
And so he said to me on a Zoom meeting, like last week, oh my God, my friend Kim is on this call. Hi, Kim, how you doing? Kim, how much longer sober are you than me? And we just bust out laughing. I was like, I think it's 3 months. 3 months, even though everybody treats you like you wrote the big book, right? And we just laugh, and he's really good at breaking down the big book. And it's and I learned from his big book studies how to stop, how to pause, how to make funny references. But people will put human beings on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be cloned. I don't need to be in the spotlight. I
Right.
don't need to be. I didn't write the big book. I had an experience with it. And it moved me to such a point in my life where I don't want any human being to suffer unnecessarily. They will. And people will come in, and people will get physically sober and feel like that's good enough for them. And maybe it is. Maybe that's all that they were looking for, to just stop the bleeding, to stop the hurting. But the truth is, in my heart, I know that they are selling themselves so short, because beyond somebody's wildest imaginations, my friend Donnie Palmer always used to say, if I would have got what I wanted when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I would have sold myself short. And that's true for me too.
Absolutely.
So really where I live is that I'm doing the best I can to stay on the front lines, and I'm doing the best I can to align myself with the will of a higher power, and I'm doing the best I can to carry the will of God into all of my affairs, and I'm doing the best I can to bring help and hope and healing to people inside of Alcoholics Anonymous, outside of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't care if it's a stranger on the street. There's so much kindness.
You're always moving. You're always moving. As long as I've known you, you're always moving.
And I want to be. Because I know the mission that I'm on right now, and it's not my own.
Right.
It's really being of maximum service to God and other people. And it's a privilege.
Absolutely.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Like I just read that thing to you that my friend sent me this morning, and I would destroy it if I tried to say it. But the truth of the matter is I want to be so close to God
Mm-hmm.
that people have to seek his face to find me.
Mm.
That's what I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not embarrassed about that. I'm not ashamed about that. I don't feel like it's corny. I don't feel like it's hokey. I don't feel like it's the thing to say.
Right.
I'm saying that's really who I am now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? I know what my God, Allah, Buddha, Jesus Christ, force of nature, spirit of the universe. I say this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's your third step. That's your 11th step. I know who my God is. I'm not embarrassed to say my God is Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not proselytizing right now. I'm saying that Alcoholics Anonymous brought me to a personal relationship with a higher power who has recreated my life
Mm-hmm.
and brought me all the freedom from all the things that I was really bound up in that third step. You know, it says that third step person says, relieve me of the bondage of self. And I was so bound up. I was so afraid that you wouldn't like me. I was so afraid that you wouldn't love me. I was so afraid that you wouldn't accept me. I was so afraid that, you know, I was worth nothing. I was not valuable. I was not worth your time or attention.
Mm-hmm.
And he moved me so far beyond that the only thing I want to do when I walk into a room is help you to feel like you're seen, you're heard, you're loved, you're included, you're worth it. That's my mission. I don't care what room I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm grateful for the Chris Brennans, the Bobby Coyles, you know, my sponsor. Man, the most humble, kind, beautiful. She's so humble. She gets angry at me when I say her name, when I'm speaking, when I'm telling my story. I'll tell it right now on a podcast. You know, we're not anonymous among one another. But I would say to you that because this is peeling onions, without a woman like Claire Keller in my life, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know where I'd be.
And that goes from me to you as well.
Man, you are one of my favorite humans, and I don't know if you really know that.
I don't, but I like that.
You
are that's cool.
Definitely one of my favorite human beings.
Thank
you. When you have a special connection with somebody and you see their life going in the direction that yours has gone in 6 days,
Yeah,
you have 8 years,
yeah.
And when I take a look at that and I see that, I say, God, I know that you're alive, and I know that you're at work, and even in the moments when I'm doubting and I'm afraid and I'm walking through a valley, I look and I think about yourself and Mike White or Dan Quinn or the people that I had been intimately acquainted with when they were just grabbing hold of this. And I look at their life and I go, why would I even doubt you for a half a second? Why would I even doubt you? You know, and I love your mother. Your mother and I, we text, and although we can't get on the same page with our schedule, I see the gratitude for this program and these principles at work in a human heart in your mother.
Absolutely.
And she thinks about how your life is, you know, and she wants to give me credit for it. And I say to her, it's really God.
Yeah. People don't really understand the credit thing like we do without being into it, having the perspective that we have.
Right. Absolutely.
We are hoping to have Chris on at some point. I've tested Nick you remember like Nick, like I worked with him somewhat closely at some point when he was like exclusively at the Devon site for a while. And, but Nick and Chris are also really close.
Okay.
Because Nick was like the first 12-step hire, if I'm not mistaken, for RCA.
Yeah, and he did the big buck.
Yeah. And so he worked really closely with Chris. They might have known each other before that, I'm not sure. But then, but like I had a step experience with Chris, and Hopefully we have him on at some point. I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't
I'm
seen
going
him.
to call him out.
Yeah,
Chris Brennan,
I
where
haven't
you
seen
at?
him. I haven't seen him in a long time, so it'll be
Get
nice
on,
to see
get
him.
on peeling onions.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
We made a point to Nick and I had made a point one time to go over to Jersey, but it's just it's so far for me anymore. And so if you want, what we usually do is the whole introductory segment is just like kind of whatever, and it ends where it ends. If you What we usually do is kind of go through the story, your story, if you want, and we just kind of stop and dive into like different things. You might hear me like extrapolate certain experiences and like frame it in a way that's more relatable to like the normal, quote unquote, normal population.
Yeah.
Because like that's kind of what this is all about. And so one of my biggest things that I think of is that some language, it's kind of two ways. Like some language in AA makes certain experiences of a human being feel very exclusive to people that have like substance use problems, when really I think they're just human condition problems.
Oh, yes.
Like that came before your whole substance thing. Maybe it was triggered by your whole substance thing or whatever. That's a belief of mine. That's an opinion that I hold. Because I can't tell you how many times I've spoken the AA speak to somebody that isn't involved in this whole thing at all, never had a problem with it, and they have the same exact reaction as a newcomer does. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what I usually try to do. So if you want, start wherever you want in your little timeline.
So, to tell my story today, which is really interesting because my head is just like any other alcoholic or drug addicted person, active or in a program of recovery of any kind, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Heroin Anonymous, whatever your program is, it lies to me. And it lies to me in my own voice. So it's really nuanced, right? What do they say in our big book? Alcohol's a subtle foe.
Yeah.
It's a sneaky opponent. And we're not cured of alcoholism. And so it lies to me. And over the years that I've been telling my story, I would say to myself, your story is changing. So are you lying? Are you...
I experienced the same thing.
Right. And I'm like, oh, no. I have to say to myself, you're not lying. You're changing. You're transforming.
Yeah.
This is a spiritual transformation based on connectedness to God, connectedness to people, and new insights, peeling the onion, right? Peeling the layers back and discovering yourself in ways that you were maybe afraid to look at then. Maybe not you, I always share in my story, I want to go higher, I want to go deeper, I want to go higher, I want to go deeper. But every time I go deeper, I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't even know that was in there.
Yeah.
And now I'm a little bit afraid because I know that onion needs to be peeled.
Yeah.
And what do you do with that, right? And so I'll tell my story, and it might be different than I told it a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. My sober date being January 23rd, 1994. This January, I'll have 31 years without a drink, without any other mind or mood altering substance. And I can say to you that I am sober now much longer. When I hit the 14 or 15 year mark, I was sober longer than I drank.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I got sober at 23. And when I got sober, I was, my story was from the age of about 9 until the age of 23 when I got sober. So what's that, 14 years?
Something like that.
Something, 13, 14 years, right? Yeah, it would be 10. So I was 14 years drinking. And I used to hear a lot of old timers tell me in the beginning, I spilled more than you drank. And the truth of the matter is whether that is debatable or not.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer in my own life that it is not about how long I drank. It is about the underlying causes and conditions for why I drank, and the impact and the effect that drinking had on me, and that I definitely align with the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous when it reads, that I had that phenomenon of craving. I had an alcohol overdose when I was about 15 or 16 years old. I was grain alcohol. And I was drinking with a bunch of friends of mine who are not in the program. So I won't, like I said, we're not anonymous among one another. But they were childhood friends of mine. And we were drinking jungle juice. And we ran out of juice. And I wasn't done drinking. Because my good friend and God rest his soul, Jim McGrath, his son, is also a very good friend of mine who's also in this way of life. He used to say, and I don't know if this is going to be kosher and I can say this.
You say whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
He used to say picking up a drink is like fucking a gorilla.
Yeah.
And it ain't over till the gorilla says it's over.
There's so much time that's spaced in between each time I hear that. Like each time I hear it is like the first time I'm hearing it again.
Yeah.
It's just still just as funny.
But not only is it funny, it's
absolutely
so
true.
true.
Absolutely true.
It's so,
yeah.
And he used to say that. And he used to say, and so for me, in that instance when I had that alcohol overdose, and it resonates with me, right?
Right.
Because I picked up a drink and the drink took a drink and I was basically in the hands of a gorilla. That was way more powerful to me. And I literally was not done drinking. And so I was drinking grain alcohol.
Yeah.
190. Without any cut, without any juice.
Nice. Jungle juice. Order jungle juice, hold the juice.
Right.
Yeah.
Hold the juice.
Yeah, all jungle.
And I overdosed. And I remember being hospitalized and not like I remember coming out of it, out of this alcohol induced coma, being hospitalized and my family thinking I was going to be, dead or a vegetable or whatever. And my only thought was, I'm going to say this out loud. This is why I never like telling my story because I never know what's gonna come out. Oh my God. I remember thinking, I hope I'm not in trouble. I hope I'm not punished.
Oh, yeah.
That was my thought because I now had neighborhood fame and all of the selfishness that I lived with was like all over me, right? So I was going to have 50% of the people that I knew like, Kim, are you all right? Are you okay? We were so worried about you.
Right.
And the other 50% were going to be like, girl, you're crazy. You know what you did. And so 100% of the spotlight was going to be on me and all of the attention and all of the things that I craved. And I qualified for Alcoholics Anonymous at the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, but I never heard of it. So my parents owned a bar. Alcohol was very accessible to me. And although I didn't drink every day when I was 9 or 10 or 11, I used to watch before I picked up my first drink. I used to sit on the stair steps of the bar. We lived upstairs, and I say we. At that time, it was my older sister Dawn, my younger sister Kara, and me. And like I said, my sister Kara was probably 6 or 7.
Okay.
And I was I'm 3 years older than her, so I was either 9 or 10. And we were in a new neighborhood, and I was in a new school, and I had fear and insecurity and social anxiety. I was terrified, so I didn't have any friends in this neighborhood, and I didn't go out. And so I sat on the stairs on a Friday night and a Saturday night with my nightgown pulled over my knees, crouched up, and I would watch. And my mother and father's bar, they were young. They were probably in their late 20s, early 30s, if that. Like I said, more like late 20s, like 26, 27, 28. And they owned this bar. And so all of their friends were in it, and it was 3 deep on every side. And the jukebox would be blaring, and the smoke would be looming.
Yeah.
And people would be laughing and smiling and having a great time and dancing. And
Yeah.
they had a drink in one hand and a cigarette in another. And I was mesmerized. I mean, captivated. And I didn't know what it was for the longest time that captivated me. But I came to realize that they looked free. They looked happy. They looked joyful. They looked free. And they would take a drag of the cigarette and the smoke would billow out in slow motion. And they would take a sip and they just looked like they had that sense of ease and comfort.
Yeah.
That they were comfortable in their own skin. And I never was comfortable in my own skin. Much to your point when you said you think it's a human condition problem. And wholeheartedly, I agree 100% with you. And so I wanted what these people had. I wanted what they had. And I started drinking on Sundays. So my mother and father were in the throes of that life, that drinking life. And they would go out. So they would close the bar on a Friday night and Saturday night at 2:00 in the morning. And their friends would be behind, like their core group.
Yeah.
And they would be laughing and joking while my parents would be cleaning up and getting ready to go out to the after hours clubs. And we would be with babysitters upstairs. But of course we wouldn't be sleeping. And so I knew all this was going on. And my parents would go to the IA, the Buckeye, the 48, the FOP, Kashishka Club, like the Black Banana, anywhere that would let them drink until the sun came up.
Right.
And so on a Saturday night, they'd be coming at early in Sunday morning, and they would pass out and go to sleep. And I would sneak downstairs, and I would turn the jukebox on really low. And when you're raised in a bar, you know all the numbers to all the songs that you liked.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I knew all the numbers to all the songs that I liked, and I would jack up the credits on the back, put credits on it, and I would steal. Truthfully, I would steal rolls of quarters from their quarter box. That was like a makeshift refrigerator. People would think it was like a refrigerator, but it housed lock boxes full of cash and change that they would need for the register.
Okay.
And I would steal the quarters, and then I would crack them on the end of the bar. And then I would listen to make sure that nobody heard that.
Yeah,
noise.
you got to
I
hear
was
the movement.
stirring,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then I would go to the front of the bar, and right to the left of the jukebox was an old-fashioned cigarette machine.
Okay.
And I say old-fashioned because now they take bills and it's like zip, zip, real quiet.
I didn't even know they still had any cigarette machines at all. Yeah.
They do.
Okay.
And it was a big brown box.
Yeah.
And I would drop a quarter in, and they weighed more then, and it would be like clank, 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 all the way to the bottom of the machine. And I would be like, oh my God, I hope nobody gets up, right? And then I would listen, and then I would put another one in, and it would go clank, 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 clank. And I would have that knot in my stomach, like it's visceral right now.
Yeah.
I can feel it. And I think it was $1.50 back then for cigarettes.
Okay.
Maybe $1.25, but $1.50. And I think, and I would pull the handle out, and then I would walk it back in, because if not, it would be like, you know what I mean? And someone would get up,
Yeah.
and my mission would be ruined. And I would take a pack of Marlboro. I didn't even know how to smoke, and I didn't know how to pack them or anything, but I would open it up. I would go behind the bar, and I would take a rocks glass. I would taste the liquor, and anyone that tasted sweet, I would pour it in the glass. And then I would go to the end of the bar, and I would light that cigarette, and I would listen to the music, and I would drink that drink. And the freedom that I felt in that first drink, and I remember it. I remember washing it back, and I remember it from the inside, washing over my brain, and a warm feeling coming across my body, and a smile creeping across my face. And I forged a relationship with alcohol in that moment that you were going to have to pry it from my dead, cold hands.
Yeah.
Because everything that I watched on that Friday night and that Saturday night with those people, I knew I now had possession of it. And I was comfortable in my own skin.
It's like, it speaks to something that, like, I always thought of, like, why the way that we go about, like, fixing our lives with devices works so well if you just do what it says, right? Like, not piecemealing or anything like that. And like, so many stories, whether it's the first drink or it's okay, so it's the first drink is drinking is initially a spiritual experience when it starts.
1,000%.
And like, it starts in the same way that, like, the spiritual appendix talks about bringing about the other form. Like, for some people, the spiritual experience of the first drink is instant. For some people, the spiritual experience of working the program is instant. But starting out, like, I don't remember having the visceral spiritual experience when I first started drinking, but I remember slowly over time accumulating enough evidence to see that I felt better, and on the outside it looked like my life was being better, or being bettered, I guess. And I slowly became, like, more smooth talking when I was drunk, and like, I gathered up all this evidence to figure out, like, why I would continue drinking on, and that brought about a slow spiritual experience. In the same way, the educational variety, right? The educational variety that they talk about of a spiritual experience that will come to some people in working the program. And I very much think, like, because I very much think it takes one to end it because one started it. Like, I've always thought that.
Absolutely. And I was thinking that as soon as you said it, like, if you don't have that white light experience, right? You have a spiritual experience of an educational variety. And it unfolds slowly over time.
Slowly.
But like you said, the evidence is there.
Yeah.
And all of my experiences in Alcoholics Anonymous and before Alcoholics Anonymous, with my drinking, it was like a burning bush. Like, in that moment, it was like a white light experience. Like, it washed over me, and I just knew I had found the solution. The solution to all the fear, all the insecurity, all the chronic unhappiness. And I was chronically unhappy and anxious and sad, and always trying to rack my brain from as early as I could remember, 5, 6, 7, 8, trying to rack my brain to figure it out prior to taking a drink. Trying to figure it out. I felt like I was on the outside of life, trying to fit in, trying to get in, trying to figure it out, trying to make a way. You know what I mean? I felt like I felt worthless as a human being, as a little human being. I felt worthless. I felt like I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't cool enough. I felt always disconnected. And I believe that connection is key. And I believe that when I took that first drink, when I took that first drink, I felt connected spiritually to my own experience. And all of those thoughts, they were not driving me at that moment. And I felt like I could go out into the neighborhood and make friends. And I felt like, I had something to offer now. Like, all of a sudden, I felt worthwhile.
You arrived.
Something. I had arrived. Just like Bill Wilson's story. I had arrived. And, he did it on Wall Street, and I did it at a bar at 1700 South 2nd Street. And by the time I was 10, 11, and 12, I was drinking every chance I got. And I mean, every chance I got. So at 9 or 10, you're not drinking. Like, I could only drink on a Sunday when my parents were passed out from that Sunday morning arrival home. And so, but by the time I was 10, 11, and 12, I would sneak down into the basement because the bar was always mobbed. And I would sneak down, and my father's funny. He's a South Philly guy, and so he talks just like he's from South Philly. And I could remember he would hold court at the end of the bar. So you would come down the steps into the bar. And right there it would start. And he would be sitting right there at the end of the bar. So he could see the back room and he could see the front door.
Yeah.
And he could see everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And I would sneak down and it would be so crowded. He'd be looking this way and I would go around the back and I would sneak down into their beer box, right? And they had like a big walk-in refrigerator, walk-in beer box, and I would have a duffel bag with me, and I would put a quart of Bud. I'm going back, right? So there was no 40s at that time,
Right?
And I would take a quart of Bud and I would roll it in a pair of pajama bottoms, and I would take another quart of Bud and I would roll it in like a pair of jogging pants, and I would put it in this duffel bag, and I would sneak up and I would get all the way, and then I would have to walk behind him to go out the front door.
Oh wow!
I would have to like walk behind him. But he would be like 3 sheets to the wind and, whatever. And I would get to the front and he would see me.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, yo. And I would look, I'd go, yeah, Dad. And he'd go, where you going? And I'd go, I'm going to sleep at Audrey's. That was the family that lived 2 doors from us. You I? I'm I. And I would go out the door and I'd be like, woo! You know what I mean? And I have 2 quarts of beer and I had the cigarettes that I, from stealing the quarters, and I would go next door and we would drink. And by the time I was 12 and 13, I was drinking, I was cutting school, and I was going to Miss Mickey's. 40s had come around, and I would take either my lunch money or the church envelope money because we went to Catholic school.
Nice.
Right? And I would go to Miss Mickey's and I'd buy a $2.40, and I would knock on the door at Miss Mickey's in my Catholic school uniform, and she'd be like, what you need, darling? And I would say, my mom sent me here to get a 40 of Bud, and she would say, come on in here. And she'd be like, did your mother give you money? And I'd be like, yup. And I would have like $4, and 40s were $2, and she would give me 2 40s of Bud, and she'd say, let me put these in a brown paper bag for you so nobody sees you taking them to your mama. And I'd go, that's a great idea, Miss Mickey. And I'd be like, and you're brilliant. And she would put them in a bag, and I would walk them down to Greenwich Street Park, which was between 2nd and Greenwich and 2nd and Dickinson, down in the neighborhood. And I was the one that stole the money. I was the one that went to Miss Mickey's. I was the one that brought them all back. So, of course, I was the first one to get a pull off the 40. And, that was like my status. I did all this. And, of course, I go first. And I remember drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking. And then I would pass it to my friend. And there would be a group of us. And I would get then what I now know is a resentment. I didn't know it then. But I would be thinking, you're taking too long and you're drinking too much. And it had to go from you to you to you to you before it got back to me. And that was my first recognition of how alcohol changes people. And I listen to podcasters today, and they say there's no amount of alcohol that's safe to consume for people. And I'm not the type of person that I'm not on a crusade, and I'm not a reformed alcoholic where I'm going to tell people not to drink.
Right.
But that does resonate with me because it changed me so much that at 12 years old and 13 years old, I was becoming dangerously and disgustingly antisocial, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, it's that resonates with me because like no matter whether you are susceptible to the kind of like changes that are brought about in us by alcohol, I find it very hard to believe that it's not doing something for you that could be better handled by doing something else.
100%.
And like, and to me, it doesn't really matter who you are. And that's just me, in my opinion, in my mind. Like if you still like the old cliche is like you go like after work, couple of your friends go out to the bar and like you let your hair down, you know what I mean? You sit down at the bar, you have a sip of beer, and you just exhale, you know what I mean? Like that zoomed in moment tells me enough to me.
They don't call it happy hour for nothing.
Right. That's a good point. But like, and like talking about your story, like that whole like very meticulous, and like I have a bunch of memories of like the same variety, that meticulous, like sneaking around and doing all of these little things at such a young age, and all you're chasing in all of that effort which like imagine where we would be if we put that effort into like more constructive things early on, right? But you're just like you're doing all of that, and all your people think like we're chasing like insert substance here, but like or X substance or whatever. But and I talk about this all the time on here is that's how not okay I was. I was chasing like that okay feeling, that feeling that it looked like everybody else had but me, which was another reason why I had to have it, because in order to fit in, I needed to feel that way because everybody else looked like they did. And all of that stuff with your dad and like the quarters and the courts and all of that stuff. But like you're just chasing a feeling of being okay.
Yeah, I was chasing self-love.
Yeah, simple as that.
And I didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I was getting it. Like I knew like the effect, right? And they talk about, like I said earlier, the sense of ease and comfort, right? That comes at once. I was full of restlessness, irritability, and discontentedness. And when people say that, I say the big book says it, terms it in the doctor's opinion, restless, irritable, and discontent. And I say extremely anxious, agitated, and angry, and frustrated because I couldn't figure it out.
Right.
The combination. And I had no peace inside. That's how I, term those. And I had no peace because I did not like myself, let alone love myself.
Right.
And if I don't like myself and I feel like I'm worth nothing, imagine what you think about me. Like I was projecting that onto you. We talked about projection earlier before we got on here, and I would project that onto you. And so, of course, you didn't like me. Of course, you didn't. And I would bend myself. I was a contortionist in order to, people call it a people pleaser in the rooms. And I don't really subscribe to that now. All this down the road, in my sobriety and recovery, I don't believe there's a such thing as a people pleaser, because I really didn't care if you were pleased. I wanted it to work, whatever I was doing, but I was manipulating you into liking me. I cared if I was okay. I cared if you accepted me. I cared if you liked me. I cared if you were attracted to me. I cared if you were. So I wasn't trying to please you. I was trying to manipulate you so that you would like and accept me.
It's a really rad perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I say it now.
Because I use that term all the time. Like it's a very common term in the rooms and stuff.
It is.
And like I like that. I like anything that just, even if I don't agree with it, like challenges a perspective or makes me think enough on something that I think I have solid ground on or foundational thinking in. And like that's what that did. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you really unpack what you were doing, or if I unpack what I was doing, it was really just selfish.
Yeah.
In the core. How am I going to get you to like me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to do things that compromise what I want or what I don't want or what I believe or whatever, so that, you're happy.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
But just so that you like me.
Yeah.
So it's really like,
no, it's rad. Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, and I lived like that, you know what I mean? And so I was doing all that. Like as a kid, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I knew who to let go first in the game, who to let pick the game, who to share my candy with, who to invite for dinner. Like I knew the lay of the land. And that's literally a second step before a third step.
Yeah.
Right? But in real life. It's a real life version of arranging the lights and the scenery and all the players. But true to form, the big book doesn't lie. And it says what usually happens. The show doesn't go off very well.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Right. And some people would fall into it and some people would still reject me.
Right. Yeah.
And then I would drink more to drown out those feelings, right? And that's in the literature. We drink to bring passions. We drink to drown passions. We drink to fit in. We drink because we don't fit. Like we just drink because that has become my solution. Drinking is not a problem for me.
Yeah,
I know how to do it, and I know how to do it in the extreme. It was my solution. It stopped working, and I couldn't get enough of it in me to feel good about myself anymore, to feel confident, to feel competent. I couldn't get enough of it in me anymore to have the wherewithal to make you like me, or
Right.
accept me. And it just, it took on a life of its own. And I knew that I was alcoholic, and that's the truth. I knew that I was alcoholic. I think I was about 18 or 19 years old, and I saw my father on the street, and by this time alcohol had destroyed our whole family, and my parents weren't together or whatever, but and that was their experience, not my alcoholism, but mine was taking a toll on me too, and I had crossed that line long before. And I remember seeing my father, and I said, he said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going up the bar." And he said, "You're drinking again?" It was like a weeknight. And I was like, "Yeah, what do you mean? I'm alcoholic. That's what we do." And I said, "That's what we do," because he lived that same life.
Right.
And I can say that about him. And I say that because I know our big book is really, really clear that we don't pronounce anybody else an alcoholic. My father terms himself an alcoholic, and he's sober, I think 2 years longer than me in the spiritual program of action. So I knew that I was alcoholic. I knew that my drinking was not like other people. I knew that I was quitting a million times, but never really could quit. I knew that I was saying I was just going to go to the bar and have a couple drinks, and yet, however, the bar stool morphed into a suction cup on my ass. I couldn't leave.
Yeah.
I was stuck. You know what I mean? And then I would be drinking until the bar closed at 2:00 in the morning. And then I would be getting 6-packs and going to somebody's place and with a bunch of other people and drinking till the sun came up. And, I didn't know what it really meant to be alcoholic. I didn't know that I had a mental obsession. And it was obsession of feeling okay. And I didn't know that I had a physical allergy, that once I put it in me, an allergic reaction of sorts. An opposite an allergy is nothing more than an adverse reaction. So what happened to other people where they would get out of sorts and be like, "I had enough, I'm going home," and I would look at them like they were crazy because I was having the adverse reaction. They were feeling a little out of control, and after some drinks I was feeling in control. And so I literally would never be able to keep my word. And it says that in the doctor's opinion. It says it explains things that we could not otherwise account for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I couldn't account for why I said I was coming home at a certain time and couldn't do it. Why I told my little sister I won't leave you with the kids, and I'll come help you, and I couldn't get back there, and whatever, and all the guilt and all the shame and all the remorse, and I couldn't do it. And I remember being probably 18 or 19 years old, and my best friend in the whole world. And when I tell you, I love this woman, Amelia Collins. We met when I had moved into that neighborhood, and we took a liking to one another, and we were completely different. It was like a country mouse, city mouse kind of thing. And she came from a decent home, and she was an only child, and our lives were really, really different. But she liked me, and she accepted me, and she never made me feel, like I wasn't worth her friendship.
Right.
And we were friends back then when I was about 7, 8, or 9, and we're best friends to this day, and we're both 54. You know what I mean? And she came into a bar I was working at, Mako's. It's no longer there. It was on 3rd and South. And I was working at the upstairs bar. And she came in. She was visiting from down the shore. She had, picked up her dog and pony show and moved it over to Ventnor, and was working in the casinos in Atlantic City. And she came down to see me. She came down like to see her parents or whatever, but she would never leave without seeing me. She came into the bar, and I don't exactly know what I looked like, but she knew I was in trouble.
Okay.
And she basically said to me, "Why don't you let me help you? Why don't you come down the shore with me and take a break? Take a few days off." And of course, I was offended. You know what I mean? Just like an alcoholic. Like, what are you talking about? I look great. Meanwhile, I was 90 pounds, soaking wet, fully clothed. I was emaciated, and I drank from the moment I could, which, because working in a bar, I would start working at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I would show up there
I'm
at 5
thriving.
o'clock.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I'm literally
I'm on my way to the top. Yeah.
right of nothing, because when you work at a bar, like where's there to go? There's no promotion.
I know I'm going to be the best. I have nothing to be the best at. There's no direct aim, but I'm going up.
For sure. For sure.
It's so funny.
And so I was incensed, but I was 90 pounds, soaking wet, fully clothed. And I'm sure she regretted it at some point, but she loves me so much. She knows that it was all to the good, and I love her so much, and I'm so grateful that she remained my friend, because I was not a good friend to her through the last few years of my drinking.
Mm-hmm.
I went down the shore with her to Ventnor, and I was going to stay for 3 days, and I stayed for like 3 years.
Nice.
And, right. And I became an unwelcome hanger-on there, and a bottle of straight Cuervo and a man brought me to a fetal position. And we talked about vices, whatever they might be, and I always thought if I just had the right job, and I just had the right guy, and I just had the right living situation, and I just had the right, like, everything external, if I could just get all the pieces to figure out, I would be okay. And he smartened up, and he said, Kim, it's too painful to love you. And he was a good human, and he still is a good human. And I don't know that he'll ever see this, but his name is Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so straight-laced and so kind, and he was smitten with me, and he loved me. And just like anything else in life, I destroyed it.
Yeah.
Through my drinking, I destroyed it.
I have a very similar relationship myself. There was this girl who had a crush on me, by her account, not mine. In high school, and we ended up having the same homeroom. I think I don't know if it started junior year and went into senior year, but we ended up in a relationship, and she very much did not know what she was getting in bed with.
Yes.
I mean, I had her like take me to cop, like wherever it was. She knew about my problem, and she like signed up for it just willingly because of how into me she was. And I don't really know if she knew me as somebody that was using. Like she saw me from afar, liked what she saw, but the person that she met was a drug addict, was very much just doing like 3 to 6:30s a day. So like, and that was the me. I mean, I very much believe that we end up being the person that we're meant to be when we use that kind of stuff. But like now we, personality wise at least, and like without fear, without worrying about judgment, people pleasing, that whole thing. But now we just have a better way of going about it that doesn't tear our life to the ground in order to get there. But yeah, I mean, I brought weapons into her car without her knowing, and like she got really bent out of shape about that. Don't really know why, but no, but like she was a very, very good chick. She was awesome. She's actually the one that she most likely won't ever see this, but she was the one that we were talking about amends earlier, and people that like you can't get in touch with, or people that rightfully so tell you to go fuck yourself, which I've had a lot of. And that was her, the one that I reached out to her mother. As soon as I got in contact with both of them, they blocked me again, because I was blocked on all forms of contact anywhere. And like I tortured this girl for like 4 years, and then she did the same exact thing that Joe did to you, or with you rather, like, and rightfully so, when she was just like, dude, I can't do this anymore. Right. Like, even aside from all the sketchy shit that I was involving her in, just the most innocent girl. You know what I mean? Had like a little brother. She was like very into her family. She drank and like got like a little crazy sometimes, but like she definitely wasn't an alcoholic. She was just a high schooler. And and I just drug her through the mud. I mean, like whether it was cheating on her physically or emotionally with like other women, and then constantly like gaslighting her and making her think that that's not what it was, and manipulating her all the time, just like controlling how she felt. And then eventually she was just like, we were sitting in a park like in my hometown at Governor Prince Park down by the Delaware, and we were having this conversation like at a picnic table. I remember it like was yesterday, and trying to like, I had the conversation to try to talk it all out, to talk her back into what I wanted to do, which was just hold on and like, please don't leave me. You know what I mean?
Right.
God forbid I'm alone again.
Right.
And she did the same thing. She was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. And rightfully so. Like, she blocked me everywhere. All of her friends blocked me from everywhere, because I went through all and which and every avenue to like manipulate people, whether it was bringing in their friends or family or whatever. And haven't spoken to her since that day. And that was, I had another really bad relationship after that. So that was maybe like 2014, 2015 is the last time I talked to this girl. And like, I've come across her profile from afar just because like I in like trying to make amends with her, and seems like she's having a pretty good life, you know what I mean? And that's really cool for her. But yeah, it was very, while it didn't like spark my journey on sobriety or whatever, when like somebody that you hold in such high regard like says something like that to you and just kind of trims all the fat off of it, it sticks as like a very vivid and like visceral experience for me, where it's just like it sparks a lot of self-reflection. Now, I mean, I used about it and forgot about that self, and eventually just hated her and like whatever. But yeah, I related very much to that whole thing with Joe.
Yeah, he was a good guy. He was a normal guy. He was a good guy. He was like what people call them normies, earth people, whatever. Like, he was not one of us, and he was smitten with me, and I burned that to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the beauty of the ninth step, right? You remain willing, and that's why you
Always
see,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Her on social media, you're like waiting, keeping an open mind, waiting for an opportunity to maybe clean that up if it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to clean things up with Joe, and he was such a good human that his words to me were, Kim, my father always told me that I was short on memory and low on forgiveness. And he was. And we talk periodically from time to time.
Nice.
And he has 2 daughters now, and they're grown, and he still lives in the same town and in the same house, and he has a really good life, as he should.
Right.
Because the only bad thing for him was that he came across me in my active alcoholism.
Yeah.
And I, like everyone else that came in contact with me, I or with me during my active alcoholism, they lived to regret it. Giving me an opportunity to be a part of their life. They lived to regret it.
Not deserving to have that regret
No,
at all. Yeah.
no,
It's the same for my situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. This girl did not deserve an inch of like what I did at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm grateful that the people who have forgiven me have forgiven me.
Absolutely.
People say we don't have any regrets or whatever. I don't know if I'm there yet. 30 years later.
I have regrets.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I regret being that sick. I regret being that selfish. I regret hurting people that did not deserve it. I don't live in that space.
Right.
I don't wallow in
right.
it.
Yeah.
I don't, it's not quicksand around me. I'm not drowning in it and choking from it. But there are innocent people that came across my path that did nothing to deserve how I treated them or didn't consider them or harmed them blatantly. So
I think it's very possible to have a situation, like I have situations where I regret doing the things, but that doesn't mean I'm not grateful for the lessons from those situations. I think both those things can exist at the same time.
Well, right. I don't think I would have ever gotten, and I don't believe they're mutually exclusive myself. And I don't think I would ever get to be, God would not, I think it's in the 6th step, in the 12 steps and 12 traditions, where it says, God will not render us white as snow and keep us that way without our cooperation. Right. And so I have free will. I need to choose.
Right.
And so I think that choosing this life has given me, and these opportunities for growth has given me the ability to be balanced but reflective. And so yes, I have some regrets, but the pain that I experienced, and I don't mean, oh, poor me, that pain. I mean, the pain, the sobering pain of, God, Kim, you really did that to somebody? You really hurt them like that?
The difference
You really
is bringing in
that?
somebody else into the situation.
Exactly. I think that pain has been the touchstone to all of the growth that I've experienced spiritually. So I agree with you 100% that I don't regret that, because I have moved closer and closer to God in seeking forgiveness, in seeking change, and seeking a higher quality of life for myself and for anybody that I would come in contact with.
Right.
Like, it is never my goal to hurt anybody.
No.
Do I do it? I'm a human being. You know what I mean? I fall short of the grace of God and His glory every single day, but it's not to the degree that it once was. It's not the frequency that it once was. It's not dismissed or drank away like it used to be. And so I think that going to Jersey and having that, that bottle of Cuervo, and by the end of my drinking at 23 years old, I was drinking at least a 5.5 of Cuervo every single day, lots of long neck bottles of Bud, any wine that I could get my hands on that belonged to my roommates. Cause Amy was like at that time, she was she liked her, I think they call it blush. I've been out of the loop so long, thank God, that I don't even know what's out there. There's, so many drinks that I've never even...
My fiance had like the same bottle of like some pink vodka that I think Barstool Sports made it. It was called like pink something, but like it was in our freezer. It moved to like different apartments. Like, that's how long it was in our freezer. And then eventually I was just like, you're not drinking it, and I don't drink, so like I'm just gonna throw it out. But I'm like, I don't know what this stuff is. I don't know what you people are drinking anymore.
Right. They look glorious, you know what I mean? Like, they're fruity and colorful and whatever.
I'd say this thing, like, joking around sometimes, like some drinks that I hear, I'm like, damn, dude, like I got sober way too soon.
Yeah, right. Like, what? Jesus. These beautiful things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we had our own, and I can tell you one of the most formidable brownouts, I'd say, growing up, because I was in and out of it, was down the shore at the number one bar down Wildwood, the number one bar, Super Tully Nuts, they were called.
Jesus Christ.
And they tasted so sweet.
What a name.
You didn't even know they were going down like water. And let me tell you, woo! You know what I mean? The last thing I remember was being in a dress. I was so not ladylike. I was not a teetotaler. There was no pinkies out for me. I was in a dress and a pair of sandals, falling into a ditch.
Nice. In
somebody's backyard that I was breaking through their property, trespassing, of course, in the middle of the night. And I'm like, like a cement rash all over me the next day, or yard rash, or field, whatever you want to call it. But I was a mess. And so I had enough, like, I'm not curious about what you're drinking. Thank the Lord. I'm in a place of neutrality, safe and protected. I don't lie to myself about what alcohol.
My tape plays through for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, man. Yeah. But they do look interesting or fruit. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I hear the descriptions. It's like one was like this place was making Arnold Palmer's with twisted tea, something like that. And I'm like, dude, like I would drink like anywhere between like 6 to like 24 of those when I was like right before I got sober, because the 6-packs were really cheap. They were high alcohol content, and there was a lot of sugar in them.
Yeah.
And I would go around the corner to a bar that was in my town. My town's known for like five different bars, a Wawa, and a strip club. Like that's all. That's all Lexington's known for. And the Liberty Bell Roundup. The couple of years that you guys were there, but so and I would just go around there, and I would just that was my shit. So like when I heard the Arnold Palmer Twisted Teas, I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
damn it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you guys were really dropping the ball on this for a long time.
Year,
Yeah,
know
come
what I
on,
mean?
dude. What kind of shit is this?
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah.
But yeah, I literally was a mess with, I couldn't even eat food. Like,
Yes.
I think that when I first got sober, people thought I had like an eating disorder, and I didn't, because I would go to the diner with them afterward, but I would get sick in the bathroom, and it wasn't from an eating disorder. It was because I had conditioned my body for just alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Like I didn't eat. And if I did, like this is how, the 12 and 12 in the first step, and I'm a big book thumper. I won't say that I'm not. I know it's the instruction manual. I know, but I do like the supplemental 12 and 12. And I know that Bill Wilson wrote it. And he, 13 years later, it came into being. And there was a lot of history about why it was written. And, and that's all maybe other podcasts.
Yeah, I believe like whatever spiritually motivates you in the right direction is good enough.
Exactly. Yeah. And in the first step, in the 12 and 12, it says glass in hand. We warped our minds into such a destructive obsession for alcohol that only an act of providence was going to remove it from us. And I know that to be true in my life, because at the end of my drinking, at the bottom of my drinking, I would drink and vomit, and then drink and vomit, and then drink. And if it would stay down, I would like literally have to be real still in order for it to stay down. And I would think, all right, it's going to stay down. I should probably get something to eat, but I don't want to eat too much, because if I drink on a full stomach, I could get sick. Like it was the exact opposite of like people today go, I know why, I was like that because I didn't eat before I went out. Me, I was the exact opposite. I was like, I don't want to drink on a full stomach because I could get sick. So I'll just eat a little bit, you know what I mean? So that I could drink and not be sick.
Yeah, I wouldn't eat it all, because money was not very easily come across to me, right? Especially towards the end, as it does for most of us. And if the more I had in my stomach, the more I would have to drink. Yeah. So like when I would feel hungry, I would say, but we're kind of scheming to get money right now to drink. Maybe we eat later. Like, yeah.
Because I need the effect.
Yeah.
I need this effect. And if I'm not going to get it.
No, basic human sustenance got in the way of how I wanted to feel.
Exactly. And so I remember like not eating and really being thin and emaciated, and wearing 2 pair of pants, like a pair of like, I don't know what they're calling them. They went through their own history. We used to call them stretch pants. Then they got the name yoga pants.
Yoga pants. Now they're all just leggings, I think.
Leggings, right. Now they're leggings, right. So I would wear a pair of leggings, yoga pants, stretch pants, underneath of a pair of jeans, because I was so emaciated that I didn't want people to know that I was disintegrating. I was literally, wasting away. And so this bottle and this man brought me to a fetal position in Ocean City in January of 1994. And I called my older sister, who, I got to tell you, and I'll say this to you, and I'll say this in front of anybody, to this day, I would take a bullet, jump in front of a train, sacrifice my life. And I don't care what people call that, codependency, whatever, for my brothers and sisters.
Yeah, likewise.
There's 6 of them. And, there's 6 of us.
Yeah.
There's 5 of them. And my older sister, Dawn, I was not a good sister. Like drinking or younger, even, like I was just a horrible, selfish, I just, if I would have met me today, meeting my former self, I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with me. And I was a rotten sister. And my older sister, butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. She's never done anything deliberate to harm a human being. Not that, she's not one of us, but that she's just a good soul.
Right.
And I remember calling her on the phone. And there was a landline back then. There was no cell phones. It was 1994. And if there was a cell phone that was out, it was like a big giant box, and only the uber wealthy had it, or whatever.
Yeah, in your car or something.
Right, or something. Yeah, it was not. And I remember calling her and being ashamed to call her because I was a terrible sister. And I remember her saying to me, Kimmy, we love you. Will you please come home? And I learned about loyalty and love and forgiveness and kindness and patience and all the things that AA teaches us. I learned about them from her before I crossed the threshold into Alcoholics Anonymous. Because if anybody would have done to me in my life the things that I had done to her in her life, I would be like, man, is this all you got the money for? Is one phone call? Because you just wasted it. You know what I mean? But she wasn't like that at all. And I remember saying to her at the end of that conversation that I would get myself to the Philadelphia bus station. Could she pick me up? She didn't even know where it was. She was like, it wasn't her world, what I was living like. You know what I mean? And she said, where is it? I said, it's in 9th and Filbert. And she said, when are you going to be here? I said, I don't know. And she said, well, I'm leaving now. And that was daylight when I made that phone call to her. And it was pitch black when I got there. And she never left. She waited for me for hours and hours and hours. And she hugged me. She took me to my mother's house at 435 Rittner. And we're not there anymore, but that's where my mother was staying at the time. And with my younger siblings, Nicholas, Allison, and Francisco, and Dawn was there, on and off, and my mother was kind enough, and I was a horrible child. I mean, I was evil. I was so powerless that anywhere that I could glean power, I did it. And if it meant threatening my mother or intimidating her or whatever, I did that too. I have again, back to the regrets. I have regrets.
Oh yeah, with my family, absolutely.
Yeah, I have regrets. And my mother was kind enough to let me stay there. And she said to me, Kim, you're gonna have to do something. I don't know what you're gonna do. And I think the condition was that I talk to my father and I get some help. And the next day, I went to my grandmother's house, 2nd and Wilder, and I knocked on the door and I was looking for my father. And she said, he's at a meeting. He's not here, he's at a meeting. And I was thinking, what kind of meeting is he at? Like, alcohol had taken us to the brink of disaster in our family. And we hovered on that brink for a really, really, really long time. And at times fell lower and lower and lower. And here, my father had a brush with the criminal justice system. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And they had given him parole to a community corrections program. And anytime he came down to see my grandmother, It signed that he was in a meeting
Yeah.
because alcohol was involved in his criminal charges. And so my grandmother let me in for a minute, although she was terrified. I mean, I could see it on her face. And so I said, because I said I was going to wait for him. But I was like very restless, irritable, and discontented. And so my grandmother looked at the table and she said, you know, he forgot this paper. He has to get it signed when you take it to him. And I said, how am I supposed to know where he's at? Like, I didn't even know what kind of meeting he was at.
Right.
And I opened it up, and she said, it's the only place he goes to when he comes here. And the most frequent address on there was 1605 East Moymansing Avenue, which was the South Philadelphia group of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember looking at it and thinking, that's really close to here, you know. And I went and found it, and I knew nothing about Alcoholics Anonymous at all. Never really heard of you folks. And I knocked on the front door of South Philadelphia group, and a guy opened the door, and he looked me up and down because I definitely didn't look like I was a member or looking to get sober.
Right.
And I said, he said, what do you want? I said, I'm looking for my father. He said, who's your father? I said, Chris Pakech. He said, I don't know him, but there's a lot of people in here. Would you like to come in? And that was the first time that anybody gave me a human connection and didn't look scared.
Yeah.
So my sister Dawn connected with me humanely, and this guy said, "Would you like to come in?" And I crossed the threshold into the South Philadelphia group of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that was January 23rd, 1994. My father was in that room, and I never found an excuse to leave. In fact, it's a funny story. Like Bobby McSwiggan. Bobby Swiggs, they call him.
Oh, yeah.
He was sitting next to my father. And I just learned that recently that it was him. I always thought it was a different guy.
I forgot about Swigs, man.
But
I always loved hearing him talk.
Oh, you should have him on. He literally was sitting next to my father, up toward the kitchen against the wall with South Philly group. And I walked up and Swiggs leaned in and said, "Hey, Chris, is this your daughter?" He said, "Yeah." And Swiggs got up and said, "Sit here, babe."
Oh, of course he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sat down next to my dad and I tapped him. And I said, "Dad." And he went, "Shh, don't talk during the meeting." And I was furious and self-pity. I mean, I was like, you know, I should have never come here.
Yeah.
He never helped me and he never listened to me.
I brought you this paper. Now you tell me to be quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
And inadvertently, he saved my life. Because I heard somebody say something and I thought, I felt like that. And I heard somebody say something and I thought, I did that. I had no idea where I was. Wonderful woman, still sober to this day. And she's the one that taught me we're not anonymous among one another. Her name is Teresa DeCero. She turned to me after the meeting and gave me a coin. And she said, "Think before you drink, kid. The time to call your sponsor is before, not after." And between my father asking me to be quiet and her sharing that with me, they saved my life. God, through people. And, you know, and so the kindness and of human beings and the outstretched hands and the just the forgiveness and the willingness saved my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've not had a drink, like I said. I have not had any other minor mood altering chemicals since that time. I was really shot out for the first several years of sobriety. And then I met my sponsor, Claire Keller. And I thought I was super sober at that time, and I was there to help her. And turns out she was there to rescue me from my own delusional thinking.
The nerve.
God's grace. Yeah, the nerve. And she took me through the book, and every time she's had a new experience, I've gotten to have a new experience. And my life is beyond what I could have ever imagined it to be, and it has not been pain-free. And I have manufactured my own misery on more than a few occasions in Alcoholics Anonymous, in this walk of life. You know, we talked about those defects, those cards that you have, and I have my own defects, and they do not go quietly into that great night.
No.
Right? And so but I'll tell you this: I love God Almighty. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love the people that God has helped me to forge meaningful relationships with, reciprocal relationships. In the world of therapy, they talk about a fistful, fistful of five. And if you have 5 people in your life that you can tell anything to, and they can tell anything to you, that is the mark of a healthy human being. And I can beat that. I can beat that. And that fistful of 5, and you being one of them. You are one of the most magnificent human beings that I have ever met.
Thank you.
And I am so incredibly grateful to have met you. Your request of me to help you was a privilege and a gift that I would have never had if I was the old person, because no one even wanted to have anything to do with me, let alone thinking I was a person in a position that could help them to be or to have a better quality of life experience.
Right.
So that trust was like validation for me that God was doing for me what I certainly couldn't do for myself. And man, I wish you. I don't care if it's early. I know you're going to make it because I know how you're living, right? And unless your number is punched and you leave this world before then, I know you're not drinking and I know you're not drugging. So I want to wish you a happy, healthy, wholesome anniversary. I want to say that your walk is stellar.
Thank you.
And I'm happy about your life and your fiance, and I'm just happy to be connected to you in any way. And I'm happy to feel inside of my heart and soul that I am connected to God, connected to this world, connected to the people in it, connected to my family. I don't feel like I'm on the outside looking in anymore. I don't feel less than. I love God. I know He loves me. I have a self-love, and I have a blueprint and a design for living that assures that I will live out my days in the way that my heart desires.
Right.
Just love. Just
God is
share.
love.
God is love.
God is love.
God is love. I guess that's it for me.
Cool. I want to thank you for doing this. I know it's like we said, it's way different doing this than like getting up to speak in front of a room of peers. You know what I mean? Even though that's
also I'm still afraid of.
Yeah. Nick and I talked about that, about like every time I like, at the risk of being like kind of weird or whatever, the bodily reactions that I have when I'm in the car on my way to go speak is just, first of all, disgusting, and like, but it's just so frequent, and still can be so like just as visceral as the first time I was asked or something.
Yeah.
And but I mean, I always respect anybody that like gets in front of something like this, even though like you could probably count on like 2 hands maybe the amount of people that will see this. But I mean, I don't know what it will be in the future. But I thank you very much for doing this, and I know we deflect credit to whatever we believe in and what's guiding us. But it is also still on us to say yes, and in the physical realm, do what we do. And you did that. So I still thank you for doing your part in whatever God inspired you to do.
Oh.
And you're also one of my favorite people. I will circle back because I got to bring this up to you. At one point, you said drank instead of drink in your while you were speaking. You corrected yourself. You said what I used to drank, and I don't think you've lived in Texas that long. so like I had to kind of bust your balls about that a little bit. But
yeah.
What's life? How it's been? I wanted to get your take on how transplanting your program has been. since you moved.
So, and even that's a spiritual experience. You know, I have a woman that I am really good friends with, Ellen, and she sent me an email one time. I was practicing, practicing therapist, and I was in my office, and she sent me an email, and she said, "This is your job." Now, meanwhile, I had a job, my own job, right? And I was like, okay. And I read it, and it was a position to be an employee assistance, a dedicated employee assistance professional subject matter expert for Southwest Airlines. And
it's quite the fall in the lap opportunity.
Right, absolutely, 1,000%. And I read it, and I thanked her, and I didn't apply. And then she called me the next day, and she was chatting with me, and she said, "Did you apply for the job?" And I said, "No, I read it over." And she said, "Well, what are you doing right now?" And I thought I was being funny and cheeky, and I said to her, "Well, I'm talking to you." And she said, "Well, then you must have time." And she hung up. and she's like 40-something years sober. So, and so I went on and I filled out the application, the online. And when I tell you, within 30 minutes, my phone was ringing.
I'm sure, man.
And but I didn't know who it was. I was like, "Hello, this is Kimberly.
What an experience, man."
And the woman said, "Yeah, this is who I am, and I'm calling you from here." And I said, "Where?" And she said, "Well, you submitted your resume and filled out our questionnaire about the position."
You're like, "Yeah, but that was like 5 seconds ago."
That's what I said. I went, "You mean the one that 30 minutes ago?"
Yeah, I just hit the submit button.
Yeah. She was like, "Yeah." And when I tell you, I met the clinical director for that position via Zoom the next day. And within a few days, I had met the CEO of that company. And then within, I want to say, 35, 40 days, I had a moving company outside my house that I have lived in for 20-something years.
Yeah, long time.
And they relocated me to Texas.
Wow. Now,
I'm just going to put this out there, and I know this has nothing to do with AA, but, this podcast is about peeling the onion.
Yeah.
A lot of my thinking is, through God's grace about the other. And so I'm so left-leaning that I feel like if I moved one more step left, I'd fall off the side of the earth. Like I'm like that left in my thinking. And that is not the predominant thought in Texas. There's a movement happening, believe it or not. But I thought, I'm going to Texas. This is going to be an experience.
Yeah.
And I was so excited for what God was doing in my life that I brought half my family with me, or a good portion of them. Right? I brought my sister Allison. I brought my 3 nephews, Gabriel, Giovanni, and Santino. I love them so much. I brought my mother, and we moved to a place called North Lake, Texas, in a master plan community called Pecan Square. And it has anything and everything imaginable. And it is, it seems like a dream come true. And although I'm sitting and talking to you from a place in Philadelphia.
Yes. Yeah.
But I can't wait to go home for the holidays. And I'm calling it home. And Philadelphia has been my home for so long, and it's where my people are. But I do consider Texas to be my home. I'm going to stay living there. I'm going to travel back and forth. This current project that I'm working on, I think it's a beautiful place to live. There's a lot of up and coming, real estate there. I was practicing as the subject matter expert for employee assistance professional programming for Southwest Airlines for a little over a year. And then another opportunity presented itself. A friend of mine from Philadelphia called me and said that they wanted to open an outpatient, and I thought they wanted me to consult with them. I've been known to do that for people over the years. And they kind of laughed at me. So I was a little embarrassed because I thought, oh my God, they don't want me to consult for them. They were just like telling me, and I'm so mortified. I'm so embarrassed. My ego is
Yeah, because you thought like, oh, I was thinking I was some big shot. They were calling for me.
They were calling for
They're
me.
like, yeah, no, we just kind of want to tell you
I
about
want
it.
to tell you. And what he said was, I said, oh my God, you don't want me to consult for you? And he was like, no. He said, I want you to do it with me. He said, I don't care if you're 51% and I'm 49. He said, there's nobody I trust more than you. And I respect your mind, and I trust your judgment, and I know where your heart is and how many people you want to help. And so I said to him, I said, you know, I live in Texas, right? He was like, yeah, Kim, I know where you live.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how are we going to make this happen? He said, I don't really know, but we bought a building, you know, my partner and I, and we really want you to come see it. And so I jumped on a plane and I came and saw it, and we're sitting in it right now. And it did not look like this when I first came through it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And we redid the building, and I have 3 of the most amazing people as partners. You know, one of them does a lot of work in sobriety and recovery, and is one of us. The other one is in South Carolina, and she is also in sobriety and recovery. She's like a sister to me. Her name's, I know that she won't care about me saying her name, Ashley Meehan. I don't know if my other partners would want me to reveal who they are.
That's fine.
So
Yeah, that's fine.
I won't.
Whatever.
But we are opening our doors soon to Paragon Wellness Center, and we are looking to have this be the first in several. And this is how good God is, and how personal He is to every human being, no matter however you refer to that power in your own life. But this has always been the desire of my heart. And Ashley and I, my very dear friend from South Carolina, we have been doing this for other people since it's 2024. I'm going to say, I want to say 2015, 2016. What's that? Like 8, 9, 10 years, somewhere in there. We've been helping other people and consulting with other people and other businesses on how to brand themselves and how to grow themselves and how to establish an outpatient or an intensive outpatient. Right. And we would always share with ourselves, no one else, when is it going to be our turn? And we were on the phone probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks before I got this call, because we got a call from another doctor who will remain nameless, but I've been working with him and his partner. And she said to me, I need your help. We're going to consult on this. This doctor wants to expand, and here's where he wants to be, and here's what he wants to do. And we're going to have to put a proposal together, whatever. He called me. He knows what we do, whatever. So I said, okay. And she said to me, when is it going to be our turn? And I said, you know, Ashley, when 2 or more come together, and God.
Jeez. Your phone fell. Scared the shit out of me.
He moves.
Yeah.
Moves. And I said, so you pray and I'll pray. And in a week and a half, my phone rang with this opportunity, and here we are. That's, you know, he's alive. He's
can't beat that, man.
You can't beat it.
Can't write it. Can't beat it.
Yeah, I love him. I love Texas. I'm going back there. We're going to open up in Texas. I'm going to make sure that this is running like a well-oiled machine before I move to the next project, the next location that we're going to be in. And Texas will probably be our third. And then I'm going to just love and serve there. I have a home group. It's called the Louisville Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human beings I met there and welcomed me with open arms and saw me through my transition and allowed me to cry in their room because I was new and I was scared and living in a new place. And man, they I've chaired meetings there and I have some phone numbers in my phone.
Yeah.
So I miss them. I can't wait to the holidays to go see them and tell them how I'm doing and get back to that's my new home group, the Louisville group of Alcoholics Anonymous and in Louisville, Texas. It's about 30, 40 minutes from me, but it's worth the drive every time. They believe in the power of God and they believe in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and they believe in helping people and they're right up my alley.
Cool.
So South Texas is and me.
That's
and
awesome.
Now I drive a big white pickup.
Yeah, I walked around the corner and I saw you walking by this truck. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
When did she get here?
Damn. I got a big Ford F-150 with Texas tags and
You're such a cliche, man.
I'm
such a cliche.
I am not a Cowboys fan though. So for all my
important.
friends in Texas that are Dallas fans, I love you and I admire your stick-to-itiveness and your loyalty. And I am a diehard Eagles fan.
Yeah. If you don't follow hockey though, you could sign up to cheer for their hockey team because their hockey team is really good.
As you sit with the Flyers shirt on.
Yeah, I just like I'm like hockey is a sport where I'm like a fan of the entire sport. I could be way more objective when it comes to like hockey and football. Like I watch every game in those sports, no matter who's playing. But like if you don't have, I would tell you to root for Philly. Obviously, you have orange on, so like
I do.
But no, the Stars are absolutely killing it.
And some of the most wonderful people that I've come in contact with are former Philadelphia Flyers, and I have a very good friend,
Chris.
Chris, but I've had the occasion to meet Keith Primo, who does a lot of giving back in the community over in Jersey. And I have a very good friend, Todd Fedoric. And and we're in touch all the time by phone, and he's always giving back. And
I'm gonna need to use you, man.
Listen,
Chris. Now I've spoken to Chris, and like I have his number and everything, and we're texting back and forth. That the season was about to start and everything. He's coming on at some point, so I'll get to meet him. I didn't know Keith was involved, and I didn't know Todd Fedoric was either.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do my research and see like which local guys have like been involved in it. But like that's crazy. Good for you.
I could absolutely, and I can say this with authority, I can absolutely call Todd and ask him to connect with you. And he is he's an incredible member of the giving back altruistic community over where he lives in Voorhees.
Okay.
And he's always involved in altruistic endeavors, as is Keith, always giving back in some way. And I'm not talking recover, I'm talking anyway.
Right.
I'm talking that they are not only friends to people living with alcoholism and chemical dependency and giving back, but many, many, many causes. They do. It's almost like a differently abled veterans hockey league they're involved with, and they play, and they do a ton of stuff, and they're amazing human beings. And
I love all that.
I had the occasion 3 times to meet Keith, but Todd and I are I've also met, oh my God, and I'm going to think John LeClaire.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He came to a place I was working at in New Jersey and talked to me and sat with me. And he's also a Giving Back member. And so these guys are, there's a lot of good people in the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Totally not just limited to Alcoholics Anonymous.
No, not at all. Yeah. God bless them for that. No, they didn't need to burn their life to the ground and end up in a fetal position to end up to end up with altruism. Yeah. The fucking nerve. Whatever, dude.
Well, we better wrap this up. It's probably your longest interview yet.
No, absolutely not. Not by long shot.
I'm like,
yeah. No.
What do they say? You sober him up, you can't shut him up.
No, I think Mike's episode was like 3.5.
Oh my God! I'm like, shut it up.
But we Mike and I we lived together, so like that's just like how it was.
I love him too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. God bless him. but yeah, I mean that can absolutely wrap it up. So I
Yeah.
guess stay tuned for more Flyers content in the future.
Yeah.
I guess that would be sick.
That's right.
And again, thank you very much for doing this. What's this place called again?
Paragon Wellness Center.
Paragon Wellness Center in the Port Richmond area.
Yeah.
No set open date.
No, not just yet. You know,
Okay.
the state has our paperwork, and we're waiting for their
Okay.
permission.
We'll shout it out whenever you have one. You let me know, and we'll put it out there for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I totally was not looking for a shameless plug, but I will take it.
I'm all about the shameless plugs. Yeah. The only reason I'm back on, I detoxed myself. We're gonna go on a little bit of a tangent, maybe, but like I spent a while experimenting with detoxing myself from social media, like a number of years ago, and I would do these little breaks on and these little breaks off, and I found that in ways completely unrelated to whether or not I was looking on my phone, my mood and the way that I viewed a lot of people benefited dramatically in ways that I didn't think social media was affecting those things. So like and now I have social media back because of this. So like I'm
Right.
not happy about it. But yeah, I'm plugging everything all the time, shameless or not, whatever. I don't give a fuck what people think. So,
Right. Well, and that's the beauty of recovery, right? My whole life was contingent upon what you thought about me.
yeah,
And now I'm like, I don't give.
yeah, kick rocks, dude.
Yeah,
Whatever.
exactly.
Mhm.
I love God. I love AA. I love human beings. And if you
Yeah.
don't love me, you're
God
missing
and
out on a
love,
great
man.
person.
God and love, that's it. So this has been great. I've loved seeing you.
Mwah.
Very much so, very much so. And our sign off is God bless you. We love you, and we hope you heard something that helps you.
Amen to that.
That's it.